What is the most fucked up thing you've seen a friend do? I was out for the night with 2 of my friends, and we were all crashing at one of their parents' house that night. We get drunk, head home, and decide to grab some snacks from the kitchen before hitting the sack. Out of nowhere, my friend gets a watermelon out of the fridge and dares my other friend to f*** it. We're teenage lads at this point, so we all find this hilarious, especially when my friend actually does put his c*** in the thing, but that's not the messed up thing. My friend whose house it was, then takes the watermelon, screams, "Yeah!" and starts to eat where it had been f***ed. He then threw it full force into the wall, and went to bed. Needless to say, me and the watermelon went to bed that night feeling a bit weird about the melon munching friend. I never stayed there again. My brother had this habit of forgetting leftovers in the microwave until they looked like a microbial garden. Fast forward to when his friend comes over, and we offer him Thanksgiving leftovers. My brother opens the microwave and pulls out one of those garden plates. He says my bad and goes to throw the plate away. His friend immediately grabs the plate and polishes off the moldy food on it. Then the guy gags a little and then says yum with a big smile on his face. My brother and I just stood there in horror. The guy genuinely thought he ate a nice plate of Thanksgiving leftovers instead of a botulism festival. Deliberately get knocked down by a car, in order to prove that when drunk, his bones were flexible. Fortunately, the car had been slowing to turn. There followed a couple of minutes trying to reassure the driver he was okay, whilst calling him an idiot. Meanwhile, he was lying flat on his back, maintaining he'd proved his point. Had a friend who had a 9mm handgun who liked to put a replica bullet into it, and pretend he was going to shoot people at his house. He'd even go as far as squeezing the trigger to really scare the hell out of people. One night he was drunk as hell and decided to pull this trick on his roommate's friend, who'd never been to the house before. Welp, that night the idiot accidentally put a live round into the chamber and fired. The bullet missed this girl's head by some inches. He begged us not to call the police, but we still did it. My best friend had just broken up with my brother who had moved over 1,000 miles and changed jobs to be with her. My brother was devastated, but I tried to respect her decision and be a source of support for both of them, especially because they truly weren't the best fit. But then she shared with me, because she knew that I loved her and would be happy for her so long as she was happy, that she'd been cheating on my brother for the past month and had found her soulmate. The depth of my brother's heartbreak, already immense, was further compounded by the infidelity. To my bewilderment, she truly couldn't understand why I was ending the friendship, seemed so distraught that I would end a years-long relationship over something so small. I still can't comprehend why she thought telling me would result in anything other than a complete door slam. Hannah, you still suck, and I'm still angry. A guy I worked with was about to take his wife on a trip back to their mutual hometown in another state. They had a pair of delightful kittens, and they asked me if I would watch them while they were gone. I had little experience with cats, but these 2 were just wonderfully playful. I gave him a call when he got back to arrange returning the kittens, but he said they had picked up a non-cat-friendly dog on the journey, and he would just drop off the kittens in the woods. Needless to say, I kept them, and they were wonderful furry friends for me and eventually to my wife and kids. I still think about what would have happened to them if I had not been in the right place at the right time. I went on holiday for a week and asked my best friend to pop in and feed my cat. He lived a few doors away. When I got back, my cat was laying by the back door of my house. I went inside and his bowl was empty. I called him and asked when was the last time he fed him. He said, "Oh yeah, I forgot." My cat had been outside for a week with no food or water. I haven't spoken to him in 12 years. 3 years ago, I made the decision to stop drinking. After about 11 months of sobriety, my best friend shows up at my door, several bottles of vodka with her. "I'm tired of you being sober, stop being a little and get drunk with me today." After a moment of shock I uttered, no, that's not happening, and we're never speaking again," and then slammed the door. She tried to reconnect several times, saying, "I'm sorry, I was only kidding," and, "I'll end my life if you really don't talk to me ever again," to which I replied, "I will not feel guilty for any choices you choose to make in your life." I stopped her manipulation pretty good. Eventually a relative of hers calls me asking what happened as the friend stated that I cut them out for no reason. As soon as I told the relative, "Well, I got sober and they didn't like that and wanted me to drink with them again," the relative interjected, "Say no more, I respect you for what you did." She really needs to get some help, thanks for taking my call and explaining. In retrospect, I waited way too long to cut that friend out. A friend of 15 years, I let him stay with me for 6 weeks after being kicked out. I agreed to bring him on my lease since I live in a 2-bedroom alone. I asked him for rent and left to take my dog out to the park. I came back to an empty apartment and my number blocked. I had a female friend who set me up with a friend of hers. We texted for a month or so with said friend, only to find out it was my friend, or who I thought was my friend, catfishing me. Why she did this was beyond me. I didn't think it was funny, obviously, but it with my head a great deal, and when me and my other friends called her out on it with more than enough evidence to prove she did it, she still denied it. I couldn't talk or wanted to talk to women for about a year or so. I was so up from it. I once saw an ex-friend of mine kick her boyfriend so hard in his ribs that afterward he peed blood. His transgression? He asked her son not to eat all the chocolate pieces out of the communal trail mix they had. He has since dumped her. Now she's homeless and addicted to drugs, in and out of jail, and even her family won't have anything to do with her. Many years ago, my friend was telling a mutual friend of ours his girlfriend was no good because she was cheating on him. He proceeded to have with her on videotape, and invited him over his house to chill and ambushed him with the said videotape. They were supposed to be pals. Years ago, I watched a friend sell some kid crushed up sleeping pills in place of cocaine. He had me drive him to town to meet this kid and sell him the stuff. Needless to say, this kid's sister called screaming and crying. She was begging my friend to tell her what he gave her little brother. My friend laughed about it, and was completely cold and showed zero empathy through the whole situation. I later found out the kid was perfectly fine. The sister was upset because he did a line in front of her and almost immediately passed out at the table. She said he was asleep for a good 12 hours after one line. That one line was probably equivalent to 3 to 4 sleeping pills straight to the head. My friend did this to buy heroin, which I had no idea he was doing. I lost a friend that night. I was better off without him. This is not even close to some of the horror stories here, but I feel it has class instead. We all had nicknames back then. His was Dad despite not even being the oldest. He hooked up with a girl, and they went around back at a garden party to bang. We could hear it clear as day. She apparently felt the need to moan his name but didn't actually know it, so she just kept going with "Bang me, Dad," and similar things. I think the fact that he kept going there deserves a spot in this thread. We had this event at our college and my friend made a script for it. He was doing stand-up comedy. He goes to the stage and then proceeds to make fun of the way I look, the way I walk, and the way I talk. Everyone was looking at me. I've never felt so embarrassed in my life. I told him multiple times that I wasn't comfortable with him talking about me, but he didn't want to listen to me. I was just recently getting confident about the way I look, and now I'm terrified of going to university because I don't want to be bullied or made fun of. I was having a few drinks at a friend's place when out of nowhere, he got up, grabbed a screwdriver, and without saying anything, stabbed the guy sitting next to me right in the thigh. I later found out it was over some money the guy owed him. Last I heard, he is in prison for attacking 3 people with a hatchet. She bragged about cheating on her husband multiple times. She then played the victim when he caught her and left her, wailing how much she loved him. They got back together just for her to cheat on him again not even a couple weeks later. She gave words of support to a friend of hers when her boyfriend broke up with her, while the said boyfriend behind her friend's back. They got together officially a few weeks later and had cheated on each other multiple times not even 6 months into the relationship, but they always got back together because they loved each other. I stepped away from that friend group because the drama was stupid as and even if I'm not the one directly involved in it, I do not condone that type of behavior. Sophomore year of college, a friend and I decided to room together. She was quiet and kind, and we had spent most of freshman year together, so it seemed like a good fit. I attended college in the same state I'm from, so I went home and worked all summer. She was from pretty far away, so she lived off campus with a group of people all summer. Cut to move-in day, I arrived right on time, grabbed the keys, and started moving in. I had my car on campus, so I was able to cram everything into it. I tried calling her all day with no answer, and I didn't even know where she was staying. Finally, around 5 p.m., she calls me and asks if I can come get her and bring her and all her stuff back to the dorm. I asked if she had everything packed, and she assured me she did. I pull up to this apartment, but it's more like 4 walls on cinder blocks. I walk to the door, but there isn't one, there's just an opening. Inside, I find approximately 27 filthy, high as hippies walking around naked. I find my friend in the only bedroom there, and see that no, she hasn't packed, everything is in piles. So, trying to dodge the hippies, I finally get everything out to my car and make it back to campus. My friend went into the dorm and instantly begins doing her art while I'm gone, in the heat of summer, to bring all her random stuff in, and to boot, she had put open containers of paint in my car, so there was spilled paint everywhere. I was irritated, but nothing too terrible that I couldn't get over, but that was until she started questioning me about everything. Is that meat you're eating? I'm going to get sick. Why do you shower daily? Don't you know you're killing the environment? Can you stop watching hockey? It's too violent. And the smell. I am a neat and organized person, and she had been too, but those damn hippies poisoned her mind. The filth on her side of the room was vomit-inducing. She showered maybe once a month, and I don't think I need to explain how she'd start to smell during her you-know-what. The deal breaker came over winter break, which was almost a month long. She was going back home but not right away. I explained to her that she needed to empty and clean our shared refrigerator and empty the trash. I came back a month later to an unplugged refrigerator full of wet, rotten food, and trash can full of apple cores and flies, her dirty underwear flung onto my bed. When she came back, I told her that it was over. I had found her an empty room and she was leaving. She agreed but didn't move a muscle. I moved all her stuff up 3 flights of stairs. The best part is that after she was gone, I thoroughly cleaned her side of the room and found a damn saw under her bed.